President Donald Trump's choice of the acting White House chief of staff once described him as a terrible human being. It has emerged. A video shows Mr Mulvaney making the disparaging remark in a debate shortly before the 2016 presidential election. Yes, I am supporting Donald Trump, but I am doing so despite the fact that I think he is a terrible human being, Mr Mulvaney says. He describes Mr. Trump, his then opponent, Hillary Clinton, as just as bad. Mr. Mulvaney,
51,
is a former Republican congressman, and the video, which was obtained by the Daily Beast, was taken during a debate with the Democratic challenger from Person, in York, South Carolina. He is currently director of the Office of Management and Budget and takes up his new role in January. An non-spokeswoman said the remarks had been made before Mr. Mulvaney had met Mr. Trump and were old news. The New York Times reported. Meghan Burley said Mr. Mulvaney both likes and respects the president, and he likes working for him. The White House has not responded. A Facebook post has also emerged from 2016 in which Mr. Mulvaney describes Mr. Trump as not a very good person. NBC reported. Mr. Mulvaney was responding to the release of a videotape from 2005 in which Mr. Trump made obscene comments about women. I think one thing we've learned about Donald Trump during this campaign is that he is not a very good person, Mr. Mulvaney wrote in the post. What he said in the audio tape is disgusting and indefensible. My guess is that he has probably said even worse. But he adds, I've decided that I do not particularly like Donald Trump as a person, but I am still voting for him. And I am still asking other people to do the same. And there is one simple reason for that. Hillary Clinton, Mr. Mulvaney replaces General John Kelly, who steps down at the end of the year. A Brazilian faith healer accused of sexually abusing more than 300 women is not considered to be a fugitive. Joel Teixeira, a foreigner known as Son of God, failed to comply with a court order giving him until
14.1600
GMT on Saturday to turn himself in. A dozen women have come forward in Brazil to accuse the prominent self-styled spiritual healer of sexually abusing them at his clinic. He is based in the central town of Abadi area, but has followers worldwide. Mr. Faria's lawyer, Alberto Doran, said he would report to the authorities, but did not say where or when. Mr. Doran said he would file an appeal on Monday. A Dutch photographer, Zahira Moz, told Global TV that he had manipulated her into performing sex acts and then raped her. In a statement to Global, Mr. Faria's office strongly denied the allegations. It said the subject-year-old had used his powers to treat thousands of people, and vehemently rejects allegations of any improper practice during his treatments. 9 Brazilian women, who remained anonymous, also told Global TV that the self-declared healer had abused them on the premise of transferring his cleansing energy. Some said they had been seeking a cure for depression when the alleged abuse took place. The related Global newspaper later said it had spoken to 2 more women with similar allegations. Mr. Faria, who is not a medical doctor, has previously been fined and jailed for operating without a license. He denied the accusations when speaking to a crowd of followers on Thursday at his center, declaring that he would comply with the law. As TV host Oprah Winfrey traveled to Brazil in 2013 to meet him and witnessed him performing his psychic surgery at his clinic west of the capital Brasilia. According to ABC News, Mr. Faria claims that the spirits of more than 30 doctors and other entities can enter his body, and that they perform the healings. Sri Lanka is ousted Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe has been sworn into office again, 2 months after being removed by the president. Mr. Wickremesinghe's supporters set off firecrackers as the ceremony took place behind closed doors. His surprise sacking by President Maithripala Sirisena plunged Sri Lanka into a political crisis. Mr. Wickremesinghe was replaced by a former president, an ally of Mr. Sirisena, Mahinda Rajapaksa, but Mr. Rajapaksa was unable to command a parliamentary majority and resigned on Saturday. Journalists were not allowed to attend Sunday's swearing-in ceremony in President Sirisena's office, but a picture was tweeted by MP Harshdeep Singh. "We thank the citizens of the country who fought the illegal seizure of power and ensured that democracy was restored." Mr. Wickremesinghe's United National Party UNP posted on Twitter. Mr. Wickremesinghe's spokesman said an cabinet would be formed in the coming days. Sri Lanka had faced a government shutdown as the power struggle took hold, with Parliament failing to approve a budget for 2019. President Sirisena was once a party ally of Mr. Rajapaksa and served in his government. But in 2015, he teamed up with Ranil Wickremesinghe to defeat him in an election, and the pair went on to form a coalition government. However, the relationship turned sour, and Mr. Sirisena in October turned on Mr. Wickremesinghe, sacking him in favor of Mr. Rajapaksa. Throughout the crisis, Mr. Wickremesinghe always maintained he was the rightful Prime Minister. On Thursday, Sri Lanka's Supreme Court ruled that President Sirisena had acted illegally in November by dissolving Parliament and calling snap polls. The crisis, which has provoked brawls in Parliament and sparked large protests, has been closely watched by regional powers in India, as well as the US, China, and the European Union. Parents of a teenage boy who took his own life have complained after their Catholic priest criticized him at the funeral for killing himself. Father Don Lacusta in the service questioned whether Mason Halliburger
18.
would enter heaven, horrifying his parents and the family. The Archdiocese of Detroit have relieved Father Lacusta from funeral duties, but the family want him fired. Catholicism has traditionally taught that suicide is an unforgivable sin. Only recently have the Church said that extreme psychological stress could mean forgiveness for those who take their own lives. Mason, from Temperance, Michigan, took his own life on 4th December. His parents Jeff and Linda Halliburger sought the help of their priest, Father Lacusta. Before the funeral, we wanted him to celebrate how Mason lived, not how he died, Ms. Halliburger told the Detroit Free Press. But the priest used the service at Our Lady of Mount Carmel Catholic Church to attack their child. He was up there condemning our son, pretty much calling him a sinner. Mr. Halliburger said he wondered if he had repented enough to make it to heaven. He said suicide upwards of 6 times. The appearance at the funeral, against their wishes of their son, his football coach, who reportedly bullied Mason and his brothers, added to their pain. A statement released by the Archdiocese of Detroit said Father Lacusta would not preach at funerals for the foreseeable future, and apologized for what happened. But the family want him removed from his post to stop him upsetting others. We are afraid that, like the Catholic Church does, they will send him off and he will do it to somebody else, Mr. Halliburger said. If you have been affected by any of the issues in this article, there is help available. You can contact the Samaritans on 116 123 in the UK and the Republic of Ireland, and if you live in Northern Ireland you can call Lifeline, a 24-hour helpline on 1800 and 8800 and 880. Here is a list of organizations that may be able to help at BBC. Code
UK
Action Line. As Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke is leaving his post at the end of the year, President Donald Trump says, in the latest high-profile departure from his administration. In a tweet, President Trump thanked Mr. Zinke for his service, saying he had achieved much during his tenure. He said he would appoint a new Interior Secretary next week. Mr. Zinke, an ex-Navy SEAL and a former Montana congressman, has been embroiled in allegations of ethics violations. They include a land deal in Montana involving Mr. Zinke and the chairman of Oilfield Services Halliburton. Politico reported. Secretary of the Interior Ryan Zinke will be leaving the administration at the end of the year after having served for a period of almost 2 years.